Hello, I'm Sondra Baras, and welcome back to our weekly Torah portion discussion. Today's Torah portion is Trumah, which literally means donation. And we open with Exodus chapter 25 and the initial instructions given by God to Moses to build the tabernacle. And from now until the end of the book of Exodus, most of our discussion is going to focus in some way on the building of the tabernacle. So I'd like to open today with actually the most obvious question. What do we need a tabernacle for? What is its main purpose? And we get a hint of that at the very beginning of the instruction in verse 8, chapter 25, verse 8, where God says, "And you shall make me a temple so that I may dwell among you." Now, very interesting to note the exact language here. God says we should make a temple, and then he says, so that I may dwell among you. Now, if the temple was a house of God, which is very often how a temple is referred to, you would assume that the language would be, so that I may dwell within it. That the temple would therefore be a dwelling place of God. But that's not at all what the verse says. Scripture tells us, so that I may dwell among you. And that already tells us something, that this house of God is very different in its basic concept from a pagan temple. Pagan religions define God in a very reduced way. God is not only tangible and physical in a pagan kind of theology, but God can be placed within a physical space. So a pagan temple is always going to be the house of that pagan god. And very often, anybody who's been in the Far East and in some of these kind of places where we see pagan worship to this very day, you'll see a temple, you'll see a statue in that temple, perhaps a Buddha or Shiva or any of these other kinds of Eastern gods. And there's no question in this pagan concept, the house, the temple, is where God dwells. Not so in a monotheistic religion, particularly in Judaism, as God tells us here. The purpose of the house is so that there is a focus for God's presence among us. And that tells us everything about what the tabernacle is really about. This is a place where we as human beings, we as the people of Israel, can feel God's presence, can meet God, can have some kind of interaction with God, but by no means is God limited in any way to dwelling within a house or within a structure.
To watch this program in its entirety, go to www.glc.us.com or simply click the link below.